I'm Adrian, the Cruise and Travel Guide. Australia's cruise industry is being hampered by its dependence on Sydney. While the New South Wales state government considers cruise as part of its strategic growth plans, it's quite possible that growth will soon begin to retract. As always, we the consumers will ultimately pay the price. Destination New South Wales refers to itself as the lead agency, champion, and voice for visitor economies within the New South Wales state government. It has a firm vision for the state to sit in first place within the Asia-Pacific region by 2030. This is all part of the New South Wales Visitor Economy Strategy, a multi-page plan for growth that on its second page features none other than Queen Mary II docked in Sydney Harbour. Cruise forms part of the state's strategic growth plans and is recognised as an existing strength. And how could it not be? The industry injected $2.7 billion into the New South Wales economy in the 2022-2023 financial year alone. Within the state's visitor economy strategy, the government's aim is to collaborate with the cruise sector to develop new opportunities for Sydney and regional New South Wales, outlined in the Cruise Development Plan. And all of that should take place between 2021 and 2030. Within those growth plans, cruise ports are considered a key area of focus. Explanatory notes read, Destination New South Wales will coordinate and amplify delivery of these programs and initiatives across all levels of government. They will continue to play an important role in delivering regional funding and industry development programs and in identifying infrastructure needs and investment opportunities. In the financial year ending 2024, New South Wales' largest regional port, and in fact the biggest port outside of Sydney, saw the arrival of 41 cruise ships with an estimated 100,000 cruise ship passengers and crew. That all resulted in an injection to the local economy of an estimated $19 million. However, despite the real potential for growth and success, cruise continues to be a controversial topic for governments of all levels, with the politicization of the industry making it a poisoned chalice. While the economic benefits are massive, political and environmental concerns cause much angst and protest across a number of stakeholders. As an example, Sydney's White Bay Cruise Terminal has been in operation for over a decade and continues to face public backlash from residents, raising issues with everything from noise to traffic and pollution. Notably, White Bay and neighbouring Glebe Islands have been in operation for shipping purposes long before the cruise terminal opened in 2013, but that hasn't stopped a number of local complaints being aimed squarely at the cruise industry. Surely that's like taking up residence next to an airport runway and then protesting against air travel. I digress. To allay environmental concerns at least, and in a first for a Southern Hemisphere cruise port, White Bay and Glebe Island will offer 5 shore power connection points from later this year, all powered by renewable energy. It's worth noting that shore power facilities are currently not available for Sydney's Circular Quay, and with the Port Authority focusing its attention on the delivery of the White Bay project, so far nothing is planned. While environmental concerns are a major piece of Sydney's cruise problem, so too is finding a suitable location for a third cruise terminal, and that's where things increasingly turn political. In 2018, the Cruise Development Plan was released by the New South Wales state government, and in it, Garden Island was nominated as the preferred location for a third facility. Sydney's Botany Bay was next on the list, with 2 areas within that region identified as potential candidates. Botany Bay residents, including Randwick City Council, very quickly formed the Save Yarra Bay Coalition. $50,000 was allocated to funding a study into the impacts of a cruise ship terminal in the area. The group lobbied the New South Wales state government on the points of environment and culture, among others, and under immense political and media pressure, all discussion surrounding Botany Bay was completely abandoned. Yarra Bay was always a terrible idea for an international cruise ship terminal. Visitors don't come to Sydney to dock next to an international port and fuels terminal. They want to have the iconic experience of entering through Sydney Heads and seeing the Opera House and Harbour Bridge, said Randwick Mayor Dylan Parker. Garden Island, which has a priority role in supporting Australia's Navy and Defence's maritime operations, was likewise ruled out by then Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. This federal government view was in line with a 2011 report that independently reviewed the potential for enhanced cruise ship access at Garden Island. With a relocation of naval facilities to Jervis Bay, Eden and Port Kembla previously ruled out due to a number of factors, it was ultimately found that current and future Navy capability requirements of Garden Island facilities are incompatible with cruise ship access over the long term, except on the existing ad hoc basis. These are the same arrangements that have allowed for some cruise ship access to Garden Island, most notably Queen Mary 2. But these are also notoriously fickle, with the Navy denying port access to Royal Caribbean in early 2009. Like the 2018 Cruise Development Report, the 2011 review found that the cruise industry could be catered for at least in the medium term at Port Botany. The earlier review, though, specifically noted that the then undeveloped northern end of the port would have been ideal. It also would have completely avoided the contested areas of Yarra Bay and Molyneux Point. That no longer looks to be an option, with the northern end of the port being developed and subsequently opened in 2014. It now falls under the operation of Hutchison Ports. In the 2011 review, Carnival Corporation stated that their preference was to make sure they could continue to turn around all of their ships in Sydney Harbour. Conversely, Royal Caribbean indicated that their preference would be to take advantage of Port Botany if that was an option. Online, meanwhile, it seems as though the 2018 Cruise Development Plan has gone the way of the dodo. It's possible I missed it, but I've not been able to find a single copy of it online, and it looks like it's been quietly removed from existence. Certainly I cannot find it on any New South Wales government website. There's that poison chalice again. The kicker is this: there is no viable alternative for a third cruise terminal in Sydney. 2 reports have now identified to some degree the same options, and all have been abandoned or rejected. While Destination New South Wales, and by virtue the state government, continue to recognise cruise as an important strategic asset for growth, the truth is the state is currently incapable of delivering the cruise industry what it needs to realise its growth potential. The most concerning remarks for the growth of the New South Wales cruise industry, and in turn the Australian cruise industry, come from that 2011 review. If there is insufficient capacity east of the Harbour Bridge, and the New South Wales government and cruise industry are unwilling or unable to fund additional infrastructure enhancement proposed at Port Botany, the alternative is to allow market forces to operate. This will result in the cruise lines making business decisions based on the viability of this market, and may entail limits on the economic benefits to be derived from the cruise sector, and or some greater use of the White Bay facility by smaller vessels. If Sydney Harbour was not available as a fully serviced port call, it is not clear whether the industry would prefer international destinations or would opt for other ports in Australia, for example, Brisbane, Melbourne, or Newcastle. More than a decade ago, it was made abundantly clear to all stakeholders that eventually market forces would take over. I believe we're now seeing that play out. Make no mistake, the cruise industry will find new homes for their ships. They'll be fine. But Australian stakeholders, including businesses, workers, and cruisers alike, will be the ones left impacted. Bodies such as CLIA and the Australian Cruise Association exist to represent interests of various industry stakeholders and to work with federal, state, and territory governments to influence policy. With their collective decades of experience in this arena, perhaps there is hope for the future. That's provided that all parties are willing to work together and identify and recognize that as much as this is a Sydney problem, this is an Australia problem. There's clearly both an opportunity and a desire to enjoy economic benefits off the back of the cruise industry. And although Sydney is still currently the Australian cruise capital, perhaps it's time for another state to step in. I hope you enjoyed this deeper dive into some of the background of this Sydney cruise port access issue, because I especially found it very interesting doing some of this research. It's a complex problem and one that doesn't seem to have a solution. And I think that if the cruise industry continues down this path, locally at least, we will see a retraction. What that means in terms of our access to cruising or the prices we pay remains to be seen, but I can't imagine it will be a positive impact. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at the Cruise and Travel Guide to keep up with all of my travels as they happen, and head to my website, thecruiseandtravelguide.com.au, to book and search for cruises. Thanks again for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.